Hey, you guys, welcome. Thank you for joining me. We are live. We're in Oregon, not in Hawaii, in case anybody's wondering, where is this guy from? He's always showing Hawaii. Well, we're hybrid, if you will. So if you don't know who I am, and I always forget to introduce myself, I just take it for granted that you already know who I am. Maybe that's a little bit of naiveness, if that's even the word, but my name is Greg. If anybody doesn't know that by now, the username says the real Greg Lopez, not the fake one. But also, I don't know who gave it to me, but they gave me the name G-Lo as like a J-Lo version of a male. Anyways, I'm not Hispanic or anything. I'm Hawaiian, Chinese, Filipino. In case anybody didn't know, I'm going to start off with a little bit of uppity, and then we'll get into the nitty gritty of the real heart of the matter of why I'm doing this today. It is the first podcast for me of 2024, and I'll just reinforce what I said in the very beginning. The reason why I do these podcasts, and one of the reasons why I started doing these official, like, fancy formats, is because I wanted it to be real. I wanted there to be a platform where I can share stories about people that I've met and maybe people that I did not meet organically, but just to share life. And for those of you that know my background and what I've done over the years, you know that I've been very blessed to come across some very influential people. I'm going to lead in with my very dear friend who passed away a couple of days ago now. He's a family friend, and my wife did a beautiful. I'm going to put his picture up so I can just kind of like highlight on him, taking me out of the main frame. But this is Angus Mitchell. If you do not know who he is, he is the heir of, or he was the heir of the Paul Mitchell Systems, and he was my employer for many years. I've been very blessed to have him as a boss, and he ended up becoming very instrumental in my mom's care. For those that don't know the story, my mom had cancer, pancreatic cancer. His dad passed away of pancreatic cancer actually in 1989, and so there was a little connection there. And so when my mom was sick, he really gave us such an amazing landing pad, if you will. And I'm going to kind of cycle through some pictures, and we'll come back to a couple of them. But this is my boss, my former boss, Angus Mitchell, with Obama. And this was actually a friend. They were actually friends. And so this was my office. For those that don't know, this was my office for many years. When I say office, I didn't have a technical office job. And I'll share more details about that later. But he met Obama at I believe a correspondence dinner or breakfast, one of the two. And anyways, Obama, for those that don't know, he would vacation in Hawaii every year for, I think, at least 16, 17 years now. And so when Obama's original vacation home was not available, well, Angus offered up his home. And because of that, because I was working for Angus, guess who gets to meet? There is yours truly. Politics aside, I didn't vote for the guy, but I was very honored to have met a U.S. president. And just blessed, like, to be able to, like, to have that experience. Even though I didn't agree with everything, I respected the fact that he did the job for our country, and it was a servant's position, public servant. And so here's another picture of Angus. This is what he did in his element. Now, this was obviously a photo shoot that I forget what this was for, but I was sitting there holding coffee for the camera guy. He's like, "Hey, can you hold this for a second?" I'm like, "Yeah, of course I'll hold it." But it was just fun to see him in his element. For those that don't know, Angus Mitchell was found. He passed away at his one of his homes in Kahala, which is in Honolulu, basically. And this was him in his element. He was cutting hair. Let me rewind that. So if you don't know Paul Mitchell or Angus Mitchell, they're the shampoo products. Yeah. So in case anybody's wondering, like, man, who's he talking about? This is one of the ponds that we had. I think there was a total of, I want to say, about 30,000 gallons worth of fish ponds. This is something that we built for him. And, to my Spotify audience, I apologize that you can't see what I'm showing the screen, but I'll try to describe it. So this is a bed that we had made. I didn't technically make, I want to say 90%. I was a labor guy in this, but it was still fun to put things together. This bed is made out of mango wood, which is a very exotic wood. at least in Hawaii, it's very exotic, meaning it's hard to build stuff with mango wood because you don't have a lot of it or good quality of it. Um, yeah, so these are some of the things we did for him, and this was my office view every day for many years. And like I said, when I said office, I didn't put on a suit or tie. I basically did work like this, standing woodworking, refinishing. When we had guests, then obviously I couldn't, be in that capacity. I'm gonna stop with this picture and then we'll just show my face and we'll talk story for a minute and then we'll talk about the title. So this is Angus and his mom, Jolena Mitchell. She is the widow of the late Paul Mitchell, who died at 53 years old. He died of cancer at 53. Angus Mitchell was 53 years old when he passed away the other day. And so, when I got the news, it's like, holy man, I was like, I didn't swear, but it's like, man, 53 years old. We used to go to parties, and there'd be all kinds of people and just, crazy parties where you name it, all types of people. And there's a time when I'm thinking, and I'm not sharing anything that's not public. Okay. So these are things that you can find, obviously. So I'm not saying this to lessen the quality of who he was as a man, but anybody that knows anybody wealthy or famous, that there are always going to be people that want something from you. And, I think with Angus, because of who he was and the amount of money and authority he had in that realm, there was always going to be people. And so, but anyways, going back to him as a man, when my mom was sick, he blessed us so immensely financially that it just blew me out of the water. That's the kind of man he was. And I was able to take out actually early retirement. For those that have heard my story, whether you're on X Spaces, and I was able to take out an early retirement, which was not something that you would normally have in a typical 9-to-5 job. When my daughter graduated high school, I asked, at the time, the CFO, who was kind of like overseeing, I guess, us as employees. I said, I need to take a month off to, take my daughter to college, help her get situated. And he said, well, you're up for, retirement if you want it. I mean, and I was like, a little bit early, but they gave it. And that was all because of Angus. We have a vehicle that was purchased through him, and we never asked for handouts, but that's the type of man he was. That's the type of person he was. And this is the guy that blessed me and my family in so many ways. And it's so sad to see him gone at 53 years old. His son, beautiful son, Dylan. It's heartbreaking. That's why I think in my title, Guardian the Brokenhearted, it's so hard. Going back to my title where it says that how life is precious. I think I mentioned somewhere, I can't remember where I put it, but I said, find someone that you are in charge of, whether you're a parent, husband, wife, whatever, spouse, to get a hold of that person, just love on them. Tell them how much you love them, because every day you have no idea how much time is left on that clock. And you guys, for those that know, I'm a believer. I'm a quote unquote pastor, whatever labels you want to throw out there. But at the end of the day, I'm just a husband. I'm a father. I'm a son. My wife and I do things that generate income. We're business owners. We're investors. We're all those things. But at the end of the day, man, I'm just a father. I'm a husband, son. I'm a friend. And to be able to connect with people like Angus, it was such a blessing. And my mother-in-law, and I'm not doing this I'm going to lay out the foundation of why there's a point to all this. Hey, Maria, thank you so much. I'm going to post you up on there. Maria Humphreys is she's going to be one of the facilitators tomorrow for the Exposium. I think that's what it's called. I was supposed to be a part of that team, but I have to take a step back. My leading to my next story, my one of my uncles is on life support. We got the call today. And so my mother-in-law, we took her to the I just came out, took her to the airport. She's flying out there. She'll be there first thing in the morning. My wife is going to head out. I don't know. We don't have a day yet. There's so much moving parts and what's going on. And I shared with Dr. Heath, a very good friend of mine. He said, man, you guys got a lot of things going on. And I said, we do. But there's a lot of oil that lubricates all the moving parts. And that's very important. When I say oil, lubrication, that's everything from family support. My dad, who is a widower but lives here in Oregon with us. So we do go back and forth to Hawaii quite a bit. This will be our 9th or 10th trip in the past 9 months going back to Hawaii. So it's a lot, right? With our obligations as far as, so my wife and I are pastors of a church in Hawaii, in Honolulu. It was Kailua for many years. And so just to have to go back on this capacity, it's tough. And so when my mother-in-law arrives, then they're going to make the final call on how they're going to navigate through this next chapter in my uncle's life. And of course, everybody's flying in. My wife, we're trying to figure out, times, and there's a lot of things that she has to get done here. There's so many things. But I want to lead into this, family, that life is precious in such a way that you never know that the last breath, the last phone call, the last text that you send someone may be the final one. And without making it sound doom and gloom, I want to share this with you. My brother, for those that don't know my brother's story, I've said this so many times. I apologize if you've heard this many times before. But the reason why I'm here in Oregon and not in Hawaii, in terms of, so my physical residency is in Oregon, but all of my business and finances are in Hawaii. So I pay taxes as a Hawaiian, but I live organically as an Oregonian, or whatever you want to call it. So, but so anyways, going back to my brother's story and why we're here was because he got sick and he doesn't have family. But there are little nuggets along the way that remind me just how precious life is. He's not supposed to be alive, but he is. He's not supposed to have movement in certain parts of his body, but he does. Now, he's got a trach and a peg. If you don't know what trach and a peg is, trach and a peg means he's got a tube, not to make him breathe, but to give him oxygen in case he needs it. And then he's got a peg, which is basically a feeding tube. And now, I didn't make these decisions without him. These are all things that he said, okay, I want to fight. I say, if you fight, then we're here with you. And he's not able to vocalize verbally, like, hey, now he has a few times, but he would give us yes or no. So I say all that there were nuggets along the way that were so victorious in nature, meaning from him able to speak to me and say my name, I would say 5 or 6 times. And that broke my heart in a good way. Like, my brother, if you don't know the story, my brother was found on the floor October 12, 2021, unconscious, at the most 3 days. I'm on the plane, arriving in Oregon the very next day, and I've been here ever since. Obviously flying back and forth. It's very expensive. If you don't know, I can tell you, I'm going to get to the point. I want to share this part. For 8 months, maybe longer than 8 to 9 months, I was spending $2,000 a month just on hotels, family. Okay, that's just hotels. I probably could have got a lease in an apartment, but because the locations varied, I was in hotels. $2,000 a month just on hotels, so I can be with my brother, and because technically, everybody was still back home in Hawaii, eating out at restaurants, and so budget wise, spending 30, 40 grand just for hotels and eating. I'm not talking about all the other expenses. And so it was very costly, and just in all of that moving parts and getting back to why I was there to realize just how precious life really is. And then fast forward to 2024, 23, 24, 2024. And the beginning of this year, these two heavy things just pop up right into the beginning of my season 2 of Spotify. So it's I know it's confusing because I have so it says episode 28, which technically it is, but it's season 2, episode 1. So I don't know how I'm going to do this, family. I'm not a podcaster by nature. I just like to talk, which is a very a funny story in itself. But I want to take a break for a second, drink my coffee, and just acknowledge for everybody that's in X, this is exclusively just for you in terms of live video, but I will upload my audio to Spotify. So if you're not following me on Spotify, there's a link in my bio, therealgilo.com. It'll open up various platforms that you use. And I want to encourage everybody in this room real quick. If you are only on X, that's fine. But if you want to grow an audience that may not use X, I would encourage you to open up other platforms. Not that you have to necessarily invest all your time in that. But I have a lot of great people that don't use X, and they never will, it seems like. So I connect with them on Instagram, Twitch, what's the other, every platform you can think of. So if you go on my website, you'll see it. Wow, he's on everything. But I don't spend a lot of time on every single one. But I do give them an opportunity to connect with me here as well. So anyways, going back to this is exclusive video, live stream video for you guys on X, but also and I'm playing around with my camera. So I'm not a professional. I'm a one-man band, as we say. I try to get all fancy, add cameras and all that stuff. So, but anyways, going back to Life is Precious, I figured I'd take a break from that, and I'm supposed to drink my coffee. Dealing with the loss of a very dear family friend, Angus Mitchell, and then my uncle, who is on life support. And I think in the next day or two, they're going to make a final call as far as how they're going to navigate through that part. I'm hoping my wife can make it before the final call is made. But I'm not sure. We're not sure. And I'm going to share a story with you, with my wife, me and my wife tonight, just driving to the airport. And I told my wife, I'm breathing hard. I don't know if because I'm overweight, my stomach is fat, or if I'm just getting to that point where I'm going to tell a very heavy story. I think it's a combination of both. So, I was telling her on the way to the airport, I said, isn't it funny how when it comes to emotions, we have a Rolodex? So to all of my younger generation, if you don't know what a Rolodex was a device that they would put on this little wheel, or it's like a pivot, and it had these paper cards on it. It's funny that I gotta explain this. I'm actually dating myself. I'm showing you guys how old I am. So it had 2 handles, or sometimes one, and on these cards were names and phone numbers, addresses, if you will, of contacts. And so you would, as a kid, I would flip them, play around with it, and wherever it would land, I would read it. So I told my wife on the way to the airport, drop off my mother-in-law so she can go to Hawaii to go be with her brother in the final hours of his life, it seems like. I told her, isn't it funny how I remember spinning this Rolodex, and I'm going to share this story on the Rolodex. I'm going to come back to the Rolodex. But when I came here to be with my brother in the struggle of his life, I was here for 30 days, and I could not leave my brother until I knew that there was some stability in his life, medically speaking. He was in a coma. He was he was intubated, all that stuff. And when they were finally able to stabilize him, I was 1 month away from my family. I didn't see my kids. I did Zoom call. Man, can you imagine doing Zoom calls with your family to tell them you love them? I mean, isn't that crazy? Like that's where we are in 2022, 21, 22. And when I finally get the opportunity to go home, I was so excited to go see my kids, to hug my wife. But I was also very conflicted. It was bittersweet. I was heartbroken that I'm going to leave my brother all by himself in Oregon. And as I'm getting on the plane, and I ain't going to lie, I only fly first class, family, because this Hawaiian, I'm telling you, I'm not flexing finances. I'm flexing the fact that I like to fly in comfort. And as I'm sitting in first class, I start to weep and I start to bawl uncontrollably, and I'm not loud, but when you start heaving, you just can't stop. You can't stop the heaving. That's where I was. And as I'm in this first class, and there's only 6 seats in this first class in the cabin, and I know that the dude next to me could see me, and I turned towards the window. I just started weeping. I'm like crying. I'm praying, saying, "God, would you please watch over my brother? I don't want to be home if something ever would happen where I couldn't make it in time." And I was carrying all these emotions, and that's where the Rolodex came in. And I was flipping that Rolodex, and I'm like, sadness, flip, guilt. Am I gonna carry that one? No. Flip the Rolodex, joy, and all these emotions in my Rolodex start flipping around in my mind and in my heart, and I'm like, wow. And we experienced that tonight as we're going to the airport to drop off my mother-in-law. This Rolodex of emotions, and you're flipping it and you're stopping it. I think so. We're gonna close this thought process in this story with my wife. After we drop off my mother-in-law, I let my wife take her to the gate. They have this whole medical team, or what do you call those older people, where they put them in a wheelchair and you get first class treatment without paying for first class. And so after my wife calls me, okay, I'm ready to be picked up. So I drive around, pick her back up. We sit in the driveway of the airport, and I look at her. I say, "You okay?" And she's teary-eyed, just like how I am now. She's like teary-eyed. And I look at her and I'm like, I said, "You okay?" She goes, "Yeah, I'm okay." And I'm sure she was flipping through her Rolodex. I should probably retitle this Rolodex of Emotion. So, and then I asked, "Are you okay?" And she said, "Yeah." So I said, shall we cry right now?" So I said, "You want to cry? Shall we cry right now?" And yeah, that was it. And then we went to go eat. Went to go eat sushi, which was too crowded. Went to Chinese after that. So family, that's where we're at. We're flipping through the Rolodex of emotions in our heart and our mind, things that we're thinking through. And I want to encourage you, for those of you that are watching, this is going to be a short. I'm going to end it in about 3-4 minutes. That life is precious. Every moment is precious. Every single time you wake up. I think I put up a tweet the other day, and I said, "Live intentionally, please." And to close out this with guarding the brokenhearted, I made a statement to my wife earlier today as we're going through buying plane tickets and trying to plan everything for the next couple of days and next couple of weeks. I told her, no matter what happens, it's your job to protect your mom. You do whatever you got to do to protect your mom at all costs. My mom, my mother-in-law, and my wife have not always been at 100%. And I don't need to go into detail. Their relationship has not always been top notch. But the cool thing about being Hawaiian, I tell you this much: in Hawaii, when the family is broken, I can promise you they come together. I can promise you it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how many years that their family's been broken. They come together and they guard each other and they guard the brokenhearted. As I'm speaking, there's about 20 to 30 family members all flying in, driving in. They're all coming together to protect the brokenhearted, to guard the brokenhearted. I'm just gonna say cousin, one of our cousins who was at bedside, and I want to share this with you. I'm going to close it with this. If you have nothing heavy to say, if you have nothing well crafted to say anybody, it's okay. But I'll tell you this: when someone is about to lose the most dear person in their life, or something so valuable to them as a father or son or whatever it may be, Sometimes we don't need philosophy, family. Sometimes we don't need a well-crafted statement. We don't need a ghost writer to write out our heart's emotions and heart's intent for that person. And you know what I told my cousin today? And it was on video phone, FaceTime. I said, I just want you to know that I love you and I'm very proud of you. And you are a good man. And I left it at that. Sometimes, family, we don't have enough words. We don't even have the right words to say. But to tell someone that you love them, I will say, is probably the best thing you could ever tell them when they're in their darkest place. Life is precious, family. And I hope that wherever you are in life, whatever season, whatever chapter you're in, man, find somebody to love on, text them, hug them, whatever you got to do what you got to do to be there for somebody. And if you're not in a position to care for someone, it's okay. I don't want to preach on this one, but I will say this. Had it not been for God bringing the right people in my life, I would not be here doing this podcast with you today. And I'm very grateful for the people that were in my life that he brought to minister to me. So I'm going to close it with that, family. And I'm just excited. I know this seemed like a maybe different podcast today, but it's only me. And I want to share my heart of what's been going on. Angus Mitchell, please remember that face. Look him up. Very dear friend of mine. Passed away too soon. The owner of Paul Mitchell Systems, one of the owners. He was a great father, husband, friend. He was the best boss I ever had. And he's going to be missed. And as the days and weeks pour in, there's going to be thousands upon thousands of people doing tributes and people trying to share their stories. And if I share one story about him, I'll share this one. I'll leave it up. Every time he came to town, he'd always come up to me. He wouldn't shake my hand. He would come up and give me a hug. Every single time. And it wasn't one of those superficial bro hugs. It was like a legitimate father-son hug or brotherly hug. Like we're not going to see each other for a long time hug. It was one of those embracing hugs. And at first it felt weird. And then I thought about, man, this dude is my boss and he's hugging me. Not inappropriately, but very appropriately for someone that is born and raised in Hawaii, who left Hawaii to go take care of business and now comes back often. And so that's my closing with that, family. I want to go ahead and close that because I'm about to hit my actually I'm at my 30-minute mark. So I want to say I love you guys, family. And I want to leave this invitation open for anybody that is in a dark place and you may not know what to do, or you're at such a heavy moment in your life. I want you to know that I don't know why it sounds weird to me to say this, but I want you to know that I'm available. My DMs are open. And I will say this as well. If it is a need of any, it doesn't matter how heavy, how small, I want to be available to pray for you and whatever you're going through. And if it's something that I cannot give you an avenue, I have a lot of great friends that are in, whether it's in ministry and church, pastors as well, or even people that are in the mental health arena as well. My wife and I take these DMs very seriously, and we do not discount the weightiness of each and every one that we get sent. So I just want you to know, family, in ways of announcement, January is going to be a pretty fun month. I've got a few guests lined up, confirmed, that it should be fun. It'll be different. I'm going to focus on, I think the first couple of weeks on getting back to work for those of you that are in the 9-to-5 sector. I'm going to have some very interesting guests in that area. So some health related guests I'm going to bring on board as well. So stay tuned for that. Also, they'll be doing the giveaways as promised in the month of January. So family, I just want you to know again that I love you. Thank you for reposting this. If you haven't reposted this, make sure you follow me on all social media accounts. If you're on all those, go into my website, therealgilo.com. Link is in my bio. And I'm just grateful to have you. As I always say, family, thank you for your time. Thank you for your hearts. For those of you on X that have been tapping the screen. Most importantly, though, thank you for your time. You could have been anywhere else in the world, but you chose to be here watching me or listening to me on Spotify. So from the bottom of my heart, I want to say thank you. Love you. God bless you. Ahui ho, which means until next time, aloha and mahalo. Chee-hoo. This is the awkward one where I forgot to do my video. So anyways, we'll see you guys. Aloha.